All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. I'm Anil Kapoor, co-founder, CEO here at Bicky. And joining me today is Ricky Richardson, the CEO of Eggs Up Grill. Welcome, Ricky.
Hey, Alvin, thanks a lot. I appreciate the opportunity to talk today.
Likewise. Thanks so much for being here.
You
So
bet.
the topic for today's conversation is the current state of casual dining. It is purposely a very nebulous topic because there's a lot of things happening in casual dining. But
Sure,
maybe before we dive into the current state, Ricky, it'd be great for you to give us an overview of just Eggs Up first. I think
sure.
let's start there, and then let's talk about maybe the last 24 months and kind of how the market has changed and how we got to this moment in
Yeah,
casual.
absolutely. Eggs Up Grill, we're an 83 location breakfast, single day part breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept based here in South Carolina. Uh, as I said, 83 locations. We'll open four more over the next 10 days. So should be
Wow.
right at 90 by the time we get to year end, another 20, 25 next year. We're 100% franchise system as well, but it's a white hot category with a lot of opportunity ahead of us. Business has been fantastic, so a lot of wind behind our sails. And while things are in really good shape now, if you roll this back 24, 30 months, obviously we all went through a really unique time and that had some long lasting impacts on our industry as well as most industries. You know, if you
Yeah.
think back to 21, 22, we were dealing with second half of 22 into 23, some significant inflation. We were fortunate in where we're based in the Southeast that while we certainly saw some short-term labor pressures, those relieved pretty quick relative to a lot of other markets,
Mm.
regions of the country from where that service labor and industry labor was really challenging for a number of years. We were certainly impacted by labor inflation that continues today, though it's mitigated. You know, the biggest impact was the inflationary impact on our cost of goods sold, so the products that we
Right.
sold. And you know, when you're a breakfast concept, you sell a lot of bacon and you sell a lot of eggs, and both of those, particularly eggs, you know, were 3x, 4x what they were pre-pandemic
Wow.
for about 6 to 9 months. So there was a huge scramble on how do we control cost. Obviously, we, like a lot of in the industry, had to take price, pass along as much of that as we could, and still maintain an affordability and a value perception for
Mm.
guests. But
Mm.
there was a real struggle that second half of 23, early part of 24, and that has really mitigated for us. Um, you know, we have also some of that pricing power that restaurants had at that time were certainly had benefit from the government distribution of income to
Stimulus. Yeah.
consumers,
Yeah.
you know, stimulus checks that were out there. That has certainly started to dry up. I think, as you see earlier this year, kind of current state, how I would describe it, we're still in positive comp sales. Very excited about that.
Great. Yeah.
We see traffic kind of flat to down a bit. Segments, us like others, are the lower income segments of our consumer that have either dropped out of the category or reduced their frequency. But we
Hmm.
continue to see some pretty healthy spend from other segments of the consumer set. So um, affordability remains incredibly important. I think in our category, delivering what your brand's about is really important. But you know, we've been fortunate. We executed at a high level through our franchise partners. We've got even though we are in a very active category, we've got a very, I think, unique and differentiated positioning versus others there. So we're very bullish on the future. We've got some short-term challenges, I think, from frequency that I was talking about with
Yeah.
segments of our guests, but we're in a good spot.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's a great sort of rundown of where we've been over the last couple of years. If you think about the current environment, the current, like you said, traffic flat to
Yeah,
down, all the comp sales up, positive comp sales, which is great. How do you
sure.
think that, the current traffic environment, because you've been in the casual dining industry for a while now, but
Long
how do you
time.
think I wasn't going to say a long time. I said a
That's
while
all
is
right.
nebulous enough, is
Yeah.
generic enough. But how do you think that this current traffic environment compares to previous softer traffic environments? Were those also like inflationary driven, or do you think there is a more critical moment in terms of the value prop of casual dining, especially with the growth of more convenience-oriented offerings, fast casual delivery, etc.?
Yeah,
Like, is it a
uh,
competitive dynamic, or is it like a pricing dynamic? And how do you think about that?
I think from my personal experiences, there's a little bit of a unique dynamic going on right now, which I think it's the past slumps that I've dealt with in the past been more macroeconomic in the context of
Mm.
higher unemployment, So you had that uncertainty around employment, people that couldn't spend because they didn't have a job when we're looking for that. So
Right.
it felt like a much more significant and broad-based type impact across different segments of the consumer. This seems that more targeted in the consumer that it's really impacting. And I think it's purely about the inflationary piece that, the stimulus probably gave a false sense gave a sense of security and discretionary income to a segment of the population that hasn't historically seen that. They likely moved up in the choices that they had, maybe out of QSR and cooking at home to where they were going out more and going to more full service. So I think as that has really slowed down, that's a unique part of this. But there's still other segments across the consumers that are still pretty healthy. So I think it's relatively unique in that context. And I think that it is the challenge is most others took a lot of price in 22, 23 to try to keep up with the inflation. That's put the pricing model and value perception for a lot of players in the category, both full service as well as QSR, in a pretty challenging spot. So how do you get back to that value proposition that drives traffic into your restaurants without losing what you're about and what you stand for, and the ability to get that pricing back at some point in the future?
Yeah. And so I guess like carrying that the next thought there is, with the price increases, how much price did you guys take over the last couple of years? Or I guess maybe if you don't want to talk specifically about Eggs Up, the category.
If you go all the way back to 20, our compound annual growth rate is just under 4%. So we were much more conservative than a lot.
Oh yeah,
we're typically 2 to 3%. 23 was about 6 to 7. So when you look at the blend over that, we're a little bit right at 3, a little bit south of 3, but it's been pretty healthy.
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable relative to most of the folks in the category, actually.
Yeah, it is, and we may have some opportunity to continue to help claw some margins back, but yeah, that's great. And then, so do you think, I guess, what impact has that had on maybe sustaining positive comp sales, just being more value oriented or having a higher value perception? Sure. And is there anything outside of price as well that you feel like Eggs Up in particular has done really well to maybe not take share from other folks, but at least, again, continue with positive comp sales over the last couple of years? I think in our industry that it's always got to start with the food, right? So you've got to deliver quality, you've got to deliver consistency and expectation around that. I think that I mentioned our unique positioning that I believe in. We're a more affordable option in what we call the better breakfast category, Daypart Cafe, all the different names that are out there. So affordability, we think about affordability instead of value. Abhinav, they're a bit interchangeable, but affordability, when you start talking value, people go to discounts, right? That's what they start thinking about, combo meals or discounts or dollars off or incentives like that. Ours has been around affordability and make sure we've got that entry level price point and a quality and price that a guest walks out of that restaurant with the service component as, a smile on their face. Our brand promise, as you know, is everything to make you smile. And there's multiple contributors to that. But affordability is a key one for us around that.
Yeah.
I think the challenge for others that took a lot of price and maybe got out of the perception, out of their guest perception of what they were worth, you got to get back into that with some really aggressive moves. I think that, Chili's is having some knockout performance right now when you look at top line sales, transactions that are going into there, but they're at a $10.99 price point, which is a fast casual price point for a full service experience. So be interesting to see how they continue to do that and are successful with it.
Yeah. And I think I really like the way you framed it, which is the difference between value and affordability, because affordability also captures things like the guest experience. It's not just about the price, right? It's about the price. It's about the food, the service, the overall experience that someone has when they come into your restaurant specifically. And I guess,
I was just going to say that holistic approach to it is, while we're investing in a lot of areas, we've heavily invested over the last 12 to 18 months and continue to do so with our rapid expansion and our training, the tools we provide to franchise partners and the server training, our front of the house teams, back of the house teams training, because you've got to deliver that level of consistency and quality from a food standpoint. And the service experience is a real differentiator for us, the friendliness, the authenticity, the sincerity of that, the positivity of it. And we just got to make sure we continue to deliver that because it is all of those elements coming together that a guest makes that future decision based off of.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that ties nicely into sort of, I think I talked when we were prepping for this, I talked about sort of my hunch here that just given the way pricing has changed in the industry, you have people trading up from QSR to fast cat. Like it took for this, I think I was describing to you, but it's like,
Right.
It took for this environment for me to finally understand like fast casual's value prop. I just before I was like, I get it. Like, when you live in New York, they try to present everything as elevated anyway in traditional QSR. It just doesn't really exist in Manhattan, at least. It took for this environment for me to be like, okay, I get it. It's the speed and convenience of QSR with the quality of food, at least from a casual dining standpoint. Right. And at maybe at a price point that is sort of in the middle. And now we're in this environment and QSR is raising prices. So people are trading up because they're like, I'm going for better food at the same price point. And casual dining, broadly speaking, not eggs up, is people are trading down and saying, I like the convenience associated with it.
Sure.
And so from that standpoint, when you think about these other competing segments, how does casual dining stand out from a value prop standpoint? We talked about the service, we talked about the authenticity. And then I think looking ahead, what's your expectation for like baseline frequency for something like casual dining, if it's anchoring on that value prop of better food, better experience, etc.?
Yeah, I would segment that casual dining into kind of legacy players and newer emerging, if you want to call that. We're not young, but we are emerging from a growth standpoint. Mm-hmm. There's a level of authenticity and realism that comes with an emerging concept. People don't have all the history behind that, frequency behind that, all the advertising behind that. So there's a bit of discovery going on there. In a simple way, full service has got to make it worth it, right? It's got to make it worth it on all the things you deliver to the guests. So, and that starts with your facility and the ambiance and the energy and the environment you create for that experience. Convenience is more important than ever. Convenience in full service is, it's about accessibility, but it's also about speed through the experience. I talked about our
turning tables, basically.
Yeah, I talked about our affordability position, but guests get in and out of an Eggs Up Grill in less than 40 minutes.
Wow!
And so it's longer than a fast casual, but it's not a ton longer than a fast casual if you're going to go in and dine inside of a fast casual restaurant. So we've got to make sure our service experience and how we take care of you is worth that extra 10 minutes and a few extra dollars than what you may pay for fast casual. Even though at our price point, it's easy to eat with us at the same price point you would at most fast casual. So we're fortunate there. We just got to make the rest of the experience be worthwhile. And our teams and our franchise partners have been good at doing that.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's funny, when Amazon was founded, like Jeff Bezos' whole thing is like people are always going to want things faster and cheaper. So that's why I'm starting this business. And you kind of feel like that is that's sort of how the world of dining feels like it's going increasingly, right? And so it's a nice moment for you to anchor on affordability, but also continue to anchor on speed.
Yeah, and speed, and then that final piece around the service. We can't directly compete for somebody that just wants to go in and pick up. We certainly have that segment of our business. It was us, like a lot of folks. It was mid-single digits pre-COVID. It's now 20% of our mix, what we call outside the four walls. So we need to do that and do that well. But for that other 80%, we're not competing those visits with fast casual. Or QSR. There's a different need state there, right? And a different set of expectations. We've just got to blow them out of the water from a quality of experience standpoint when we do provide that full service dining opportunity and have the convenience and the affordability and the quality and the friendliness, all those things together.
Amazing. Awesome. So we're coming up here on time almost. What do you think the next 12 months of casual dining looks like? And then if you want to sprinkle in some commentary about the next 12 months of Eggs Up, that'd be great as well.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously we get to the middle of November and we're past an election, which a lot of people are probably paying attention to. So I think that will help settle some uncertainty one way or another for a good segment of the population. It's really interesting from a macro perspective that while there were certainly some positive feelings coming out of a major reduction in interest rates, doesn't seem like that may stick. And if you look at mortgage rates and some other things, so I don't think it's going to get significantly better from there might be some positivity, but I don't think it's going to get mindset's going to significantly shift over the next 12 months. So I think that the affordability is going to remain important. I think that you're going to see more, not less, of the discounting and combo meals and value plays behind that, whether that's from full service or whether that's from QSR and fast casual. So I think price sensitivity is going to remain, which just puts a brighter lens on doing the other things really, really well.
Yeah, that's right. And then I think the last thing I want to end on is like, what do you think we need to see to sort of turn the corner and for the environment to start getting better from a macro standpoint? I think you shared a couple things with me that like you in particular pay attention to, unemployment being one of them. Maybe,
gas prices are always is probably the closest to a leading indicator that you see in discretionary spend, particularly in restaurants. Those have been soft and softening for the last 6 to 8 weeks. That's probably going to be a little bit of a tailwind. I think as long as unemployment doesn't get north of 5, we're probably in a good environment with that. People have gotten so used to kind of this full employment state at 4.5%. So I think if once it starts getting north of that, the news around it would probably get a lot more dire.
Yeah.
The anticipation there. But I think that after all the savings have drawn up from the money that was distributed, people are going to probably adjust their lifestyle. So the frequency patterns on a year-over-year basis are probably going to hold. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of tailwinds coming from a macro standpoint the next 12 months. So that's how we're thinking about it.
Yeah, that's the risk, but therein lies is the opportunity, I guess, especially for a concept like yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Which is why we're excited.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, awesome. Ricky, this was great. Thank you so much for taking some time with us. And for those of you tuning in, whether you're seeing this live or post-show recording, thanks for watching.
Yeah,
Take care, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Likewise. Thanks, Ricky. Bye-bye.